Hello and welcome to the FlexPro YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, be sure to subscribe. And as always, let us know in the comments down below what you guys want to see next. So as you guys know, over the past few months, we've kind of been breaking down different diets, which ones are more sustainable, trying to help you guys find out which diet fits best in your lifestyle. So what we're doing today is pinning them head to head and finding out which diet is better for fat loss. On the left side of the ring, we have Paleo, and on the right side, we have the ever so up and coming Conor McGregor of diets, Keto. So without further ado, we'll let the diets go head to head and let you decide ultimately which diet comes out on top.
So what is the difference between keto and paleo? Because they really parallel each other quite a bit. I wanted to do this video to truly help you understand what's for you, which one might be better. And I know a lot of you know that I do a lot of keto videos, but that doesn't mean that I'm totally hard set in ketosis. I want to make sure that you understand the key differences. Two of the most popular diets in the world right now, keto and paleo. So what are the key differences first and foremost? Well, let's take a look at what each of the diets is. So when we look at paleo, we're looking at what our ancestors would have eaten, okay? What we would have eaten 1,000, 2,000 years ago. So we're talking about limited grains, limited processed foods, no sugars, no artificial ingredients, things like that. It sounds pretty wholesome. And then we look at ketosis. Ketosis is a complete metabolic shift. Totally different ballgame. You're getting your body from utilizing glucose over to utilizing fats as a source of fuel. So ketosis, you're shifting your metabolism a whole different way. Paleo is a little bit more of just an eating style, more of a preference more than anything. But there's some commonalities between the two, and we really need to understand how this process works. As far as similarities go, there have been collective studies from the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, the Journal of Internal Medicine, the Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism, and the New England Journal of Medicine that have all found that both keto and paleo result in lower triglyceride levels, lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, and lower levels of insulin. So as far as health is concerned, they're both great. They both really have a big benefit there. But where do they really start to differ? And where should we really be paying attention? So the big difference that we have to look at between paleo and keto is that paleo is still utilizing carbohydrates as its primary source of fuel. It doesn't matter if it's 50 grams, 100 grams, or 200 grams. Paleo is still using carbs. You're still using glucose uptake to actually fuel your muscles and fuel your mind. Whereas keto, you're utilizing beta hydroxybutyrate, a whole different ballgame. And like I said, even though some of the foods cross over, big difference in how the body is metabolizing fuel. But there's a couple other differences that we want to pay attention to. The big one is dairy. Okay, when you look at paleo, paleo doesn't consume dairy. Why? Because dairy massively disrupts gut health. And there's a fair level of processing that goes into most dairy. So when you look at a paleo person, they're usually avoiding the dairy like the plague. They don't want to consume it. But then, unfortunately, when you look at keto, there's a massive consumption of dairy. Now, personally, I don't condone the heavy use of dairy. I'm not a fan of it. But that doesn't change the fact that Western civilization and predominantly the American culture is really heavy on dairy, especially in keto because it's easy to lean on. You can go and you can have some heavy cream. You can have some half and half, even though, again, I don't recommend it. Most people are going to do that because it's an easy crutch. It's an easy way to get through ketosis. Okay? The other thing we want to look at is artificial and processed sweeteners. Okay? Paleo doesn't consume those. Again, paleo's living close to the earth. Paleo's living thousands of years ago where we didn't have that stuff. It just flat out doesn't exist in a paleo mind. Although, I'll be honest, I've seen some paleo people that are still putting Splenda in their coffee and they still call themselves paleo. But a true devout paleo person is not going to consume that. Whereas keto, once again, suffice it to say, they still lean on that stuff. Okay? I see keto people all the time just loading up with stevia, loading up with Splenda. And when it comes to stevia, I include myself in that bunch. It's just easy, and even though it's natural, it's still processed to an extent and makes it not paleo. Now, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad, but those are some key differences there, especially when it comes down to the processed meats as well. So now the big question is, who is paleo for and who is keto for? If you're looking to lose weight, keto is good. There's no denying that. Keto is going to be the winner there. Now, again, it may not be the healthiest approach if you're not doing it right. Again, all my videos that I do on keto, I'm talking about doing it right and doing it in a sustainable way. But regardless, you're going to lose weight, even if you're doing the dairy thing, even if you're doing the artificial sweetener thing. It may not be the healthiest way, but you're going to lose weight faster than you would in paleo because paleo, you are still utilizing those carbohydrates. Then what about cravings? If you're someone that has to fight cravings, also, keto is going to be the winner there. If you're someone that needs to get off the sugar habit, keto is going to be for you. And it has to do with the fact that your body's going to start utilizing beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and these other ketone bodies that dramatically curb your cravings and lower your insulin response. So therefore, you're just not going to crave them. Okay, but what if you're looking for a flexible diet? What if you're not really focused on your body composition so much and you're more so focused on just having a well-rounded, wholesome life? Well, then paleo might be for you, simply because it's going to allow you to have a little bit more flexibility. It's going to allow you to get a wider spectrum of nutrients. And again, I'll say this again, on keto, you should be getting a wide spectrum of nutrients, but I know that most people on keto, because I talk to them day in and day out, are not, because they're not making the extra effort. Paleo, it's a lot easier just through your natural diet to get a wholesome, well-rounded approach. Okay, then we have to look at the athlete. Okay, this is a big one. If you're an athlete, you either want to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. The problem with paleo, and here's the big problem, is that the carbs that you are consuming are either the wrong kind of carb, meaning they're fructose, or you're sitting in that constant gray area of being so low in carbs that you're really not getting the full benefit of carbs and you're just running at the bottom of your tank. Whereas keto, you're at least eliminating the carbs altogether and shifting your metabolism to another energy source. So I've talked about in other videos how fructose, like coming from fruit, is metabolized totally different, and it goes to the body in a different way. It actually stores as body fat. It goes through de novo lipogenesis very, very easily. In fact, 5% of all the fructose that you consume immediately is stored as fat, believe it or not. Just sometimes you burn it off really fast. So that's the problem. And I have to be honest here, when you look at the CrossFit community for the most part, which was big on paleo up until about a year ago, and I'm not opposing CrossFit here, but I'm stating the obvious. A lot of times in a CrossFit box, you find that the people just don't look very fit, even if they're extremely athletic. They just don't always look the part. It's kind of dumbfounding. Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're consuming high amounts of fat as if they're trying to get their bodies to utilize fats as a source of fuel, but then they're still having just enough carbohydrates to keep their body utilizing glucose. So all the extra fats they're consuming are just getting stored. They're also consuming a lot of fruit, which is not restoring glycogen, so it's not helping them recover from their workout at all. I've seen CrossFitters that are drinking massive smoothies after their workout, thinking that those carbs are gonna go right to their muscles. No, it's gonna go right to your waistline. So it's just a common misunderstanding among that crowd. But that really proves my point that if you're someone that's very, very active, paleo is not really for you. You're actually gonna have a better effect by just cutting the carbs out entirely and shifting your metabolic state. And most people don't understand that. But the other thing that we really wanna make sure that we're always paying attention to is the fact that if you're running an endurance race or you're doing any kind of long, more sustainable activity, is the body utilizes ketone bodies much better than it does carbohydrates. So at the end of the day, is paleo good for anybody? Well, yeah, it definitely is. Again, it's about being aware of what you're consuming in paleo and for someone that maybe isn't super, super active. But what about the combination? Because those of you that are watching might be wondering, well, can you do paleo and keto? The answer is yes, you can. In fact, paleo is so close to keto, all you have to do is eliminate the carbs out of the equation. You've got a really clean form of keto. Ketosis without the dairy, ketosis without the artificial sweeteners, ketosis without the processed meats. You're doing ketosis in a good, sustainable way where you're still getting the healthy fats from the coconut oil, you're still getting the healthy fats from the other kinds of seeds and nuts, and you're still getting the right kind of proteins in a sustainable way. And you're not eating low-quality junk. So all I encourage you to do in this case is think keto, but think keto 1,000 years ago.
The paleo diet, sometimes called the caveman diet, is based on the principle that eating foods that were available to early humans will promote optimal health. One of the fundamental theories behind the paleo diet is that modern food systems, production and processing techniques, are damaging to human health. Thus, if you adjust your eating style to mimic that of Paleolithic hunter-gatherers, you will better support your body's natural biological function, improving digestion and health. And paleo eliminates grains, legumes, processed sugar, and pretty much all forms of dairy. The keto or ketogenic diet aims to induce ketosis through the calculated adjustment of dietary macronutrients, namely carbs, protein, and fat. Ketosis is the metabolic state in which your body uses calories from fat instead of carbs to create the energy needed to carry out its normal functions. In comparison to a standard diet, the macronutrient distribution of the keto diet is shifting significantly in favor of fat, with moderate protein and very few carbs, like less than 5 to 10% of calories or 50 grams of carbs per day. Now remember, the purpose of achieving ketosis with this diet plan is to induce the metabolic breakdown of fat in your body. Thus, it's imperative that your macronutrient intake is tightly controlled, i.e. your carbs are very low and your fat intake is very high. Otherwise, you risk putting your body out of that metabolic state of ketosis. These diets have a lot in common. Although they are distinct, paleo and keto diets share many characteristics. So here are some of the main ideas that these diets have in common. They both emphasize whole foods. So both keto and paleo diets strongly encourage eliminating all ultra-processed foods and replacing them with whole foods like fresh vegetables, meat, fish, and nuts. They both eliminate grains and legumes, though for different reasons. They're strongly discouraged for both diets. For the paleo crowd, this elimination is largely based on the fact that grains and legumes were not likely part of early human diets. And for the keto diet, this is because their carbohydrate content is too high and that can put you out of ketosis. They both eliminate added sugar. Now, for both diet plans, this largely falls under their shared message of avoiding heavily processed foods in general. However, paleo dieters are a bit more flexible with this rule, as unrefined sugar sources like honey and maple syrup are still permitted. Now, keto, on the other hand, doesn't allow any added sugar sources, refined or not, due to the high carb content of these foods. Both diets emphasize healthy fats. They both recommend moderate to liberal amounts of olive, coconut and avocado oils, nuts, seeds and fish. These foods are known to benefit heart health because of their poly and monounsaturated fat content. Coconut oil being the exception there. And both may be effective for weight loss. Now, this one isn't rocket science. There's no magic additional fat burning happening. Basically, when you don't eat junk food and replace it with more fulfilling whole foods, you consume fewer calories. This leads to weight loss. Both diets can help you do that. As for the major differences, well, paleo still allows carbs from whole food sources such as fruits, some starchy vegetables, unrefined sweeteners. On the other hand, the keto diet restricts all of these because it wants to keep the carb content very low. On the flip side, the ketogenic diet encourages high-fat dairy foods like cream and yogurt, whereas the paleo diet eliminates dairy foods, except for butter. For some reason, butter is allowed. Which one is healthier? In a side-by-side comparison, the paleo diet is the better option overall. Paleo allows for more flexibility of food choices and more options for obtaining the wide array of nutrients your body needs on a daily basis. Freedom within food choices makes paleo easier to maintain long-term with less potential to be socially isolating, basically. Keto is more difficult to maintain because of the strict compliance needed to achieve ketosis. It requires careful planning and can be less adaptable to varied social situations. In the end, both diets have the potential to positively impact your health when appropriately planned. In saying that, you can also positively impact your health in the same way, or even better, without following all those unnecessary restrictions and diet rules. If we look at people who live the longest, people in the blue zones, none of those people follow a paleo or keto diet, and yet they live long, happy, and fulfilling lives. Ultimately, the best diet for you is the one that you can stick to long term.
Well, there you have it, folks. After a few rounds in the octagon, you can ultimately decide, is this a split decision? Is there a clear winner? Let us know down in the comments below. And if you do believe that you're on Team Keto or Team Paleo, simply click the link in the description and we have options for both of you. We look forward to hearing all your feedback and can't wait to hear from you guys soon. Have an amazing week.